And I'm pleased that you actually came in person into the House to deal with this very important issue. And the situation was that the SICAP tendering process was meant to be announced tomorrow. And if that's put back, the situation is that more uncertainty arises for the workers who don't know what's going to happen after the end of March. Now, as you know, there's about 2,000 workers in this sector who are waiting for a decision on SICAP. And I have to say that the SICAP process was totally unsatisfactory from beginning to end, and is going to lead to some very, very bad outcomes on the ground. But this evening I'd like to concentrate on the issue of what is going to happen to people who are employed in the partnerships post the 31st of March. As Deputy O'Study has said, there's a cut in the money. So can you confirm, Minister, how many jobs do the Department estimate are going to be lost? And the second thing is, are the companies going to be given money to put a proper redundancy package in place so that a proper voluntary redundancy scheme will be put in place for the workers? Because I think that the uncertainty is very unsatisfactory. But I think it's also interesting to look at the Labour Court decision of the 4th of December 2014, where they rightly point out that even though you're not technically the employer, that in fact standing back from this process and pretending you've nothing to do with it is somewhat like Hamlet without the prince. And that there is an obligation on the state to engage not only with the employers but with the employees to clarify what is going to happen to their jobs, and if there is going to be a downsizing, how is that going to be approached, and will the companies get money to facilitate fair redundancy packages as you'd expect in a situation like this?
Thanks, Deputy. And the Minister to respond to 4 minutes.
Thank you, Deputies. And you're right, this is a very important issue. My department's local community development programme is the largest social inclusion intervention of its kind in the state. The successor programme to the LCDP, the Social Inclusion and Community Activation Programme, to be rolled out on the 1st of April, will build on the LCDP aims and objectives. It is aiming to tackle poverty, social exclusion and long-term unemployment through local engagement and partnership between disadvantaged individuals, community organisations, public sector agencies and indeed many other stakeholders. Community development is an integral part of SICAP and underpins the entire programme. I am confident that supports for the most disadvantaged in our society will continue under SICAP, and that the programme will continue to provide supports to those most distant from the labour market. In accordance with the Public Spending Code, with the legal advice and good practice internationally, in order to ensure the optimum delivery of services to clients, which is obviously critically important, I'm sure everyone agrees, SICAP is subject to a public procurement process which is currently underway. The public procurement process is a competitive process that was open to local development companies, other not-for-profit community groups, commercial firms and national organisations that can provide the services to be tendered for to deliver the new programme. The outcome of the procurement process, colleagues, will be known later this month. In the changing landscape for the community and local government sectors, and having regard to my department's response to differing priorities, the primary focus of my departments must be to ensure that the frontline services being supported, particularly those focused on the needs of the most socially deprived communities, are indeed protected, given the need to ensure best value for the scarce resources available at this time. While business continuity remains a key concern for all stakeholders, it is not possible to predict what impact, if indeed any, the outcome of the competitive process for the new programme will have with regard to the network of local development companies, which are independent limited companies, or their staff. The outcome of the competitive process will be known later this month, and I assume that it is that announcement that has been referred to by the deputies. At that stage, my department will be reviewing the outcome mindful of the need to observe procurement regulations and the need to ensure that frontline services delivered through the new programme are protected insofar as is possible. It should be noted that my department has no role in the internal operations of LDCs and therefore does not have a role in relation to staff or employment matters, which are for the board of each company as the employer to manage and take responsibility for. Each funding department is responsible for its own funding and contractual arrangements with the LDCs. In the meantime, all groups who received LCDP funding in 2014 are being funded through the LCDP interim arrangements until the end of March next, pending the outcome of the competitive process, which is imminent.
Deputy Ó Cuív, just 1 minute.
Minister, I have to say you said it with a serious face, but you cannot honestly believe that the local companies can pay redundancy to people without you providing the money, since all of the funding they give out under SICAP is controlled by the department, and that no reimbursements will take place unless you approve the process. And it's amazing that the Labour Court could see through the rubbish that you're talking. What the Labour Court said was as follows. In the Court's view, the issues raised by the unions are real and substantial. Like any group of workers, they are entitled to an opportunity of having these issues ventilated and addressed by those with responsibility for the decisions giving rise to their concerns. That cannot happen through engagement between the parties to this referral alone, and in this case that was the employers, i.e. the companies, and the unions. In all of the circumstances, Minister, of this case, the court, the Labour Court, recommend, and remember you're a Labour Party minister, the Labour Court recommends that a forum be established to deal with the employment-related matters affecting the workers who are associated with this claim. That forum should involve the unions and the representatives of the employers in the first instance. However, the parties should seek the participation in the forum of the de facto decision makers in matters of policy and funding.
Okay,
now, Minister, you are the de facto decision maker in this case because you provide all the funding. Are you going to upfront and tell the employers and the workers what's going to happen?
Thanks, Deputy.
Or are you going to leave them in the lurch, as you appear to be doing?
Deputies, Deputy Ó Cuív, I can read as well, and I've read that too, so I'm well aware of your responsibilities. And of course, from a departmental point of view, you would never shirk your responsibilities. But the simple fact of the matter are that these are private companies. But we're probably going at this issue a little early, colleagues, is what I would say. There is a tendering process underway, and that tendering process is to be closed off imminently, to be honest, very, very, very soon. And as part of that, imminently, very soon. We're talking in that timescale, yes. But as part, can I make a contribution, or do you just want to stay talking?
He has only 2 minutes to respond.
As part of that process, obviously, we will then find out the impact this has had on the local development companies, and what scale of impact, what range of impact, in what areas geographically, in what sectors, etc. We'll see what is the outcome of all of that. And as part of my absolute intention here is to ensure that those who get these services, who are in the front line, are absolutely protected. And we will do everything we can as a department, post-tendering process, to ensure that happens. But colleagues, be quite frank about it, as the Minister with responsibility in the area, I'm not going to prejudge a tendering process that's underway. It wouldn't be appropriate, it wouldn't be responsible. That outcome is happening very soon, and once those results are in, and it is an independent process from myself, once that process is in, I'm absolutely very confident that any issues that arise of that, as regards service provision, will be dealt with by this government to ensure that the people who need these services will get these services. as they so need.